imagine a being who witnessed the Big Bang, a villain who conquered empires before humans discovered fire, a hero who fought wars before Atlantis sank beneath the waves. Clocking in at a mind-boggling 13 billion years old, we have a tie. Both hailing from DC Comics, we have Metron, the godlike observer who travels through time and space on his Mobius chair, constantly seeking knowledge. And then there are the Guardians of the Universe, the immortal protectors of the Green Lantern Corps. These ancient beings have seen the universe evolve from its infancy, making them some of the oldest and wisest entities in existence. Metron and the Guardians of the Universe are two of the most powerful and influential beings in the DC Universe. They have both existed for billions of years, witnessing the rise and fall of countless civilizations. However, they have used their power in very different ways. Metron is a solitary figure who seeks knowledge for its own sake. He is often seen as a neutral observer, but he has also been known to intervene in the affairs of mortals. Metron's Mobius chair allows him to travel through time and space, and to access any information he desires. He has used this power to learn about the history of the universe, and to understand the nature of reality itself. Metron's knowledge is vast, and his understanding of the universe is profound. He has seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, and he has witnessed the birth and death of stars. He has also seen the good and the bad in humanity, and he has learned that the universe is a complex and often unpredictable place. Metron's wisdom is often sought by other beings, and he has been known to offer advice to both heroes and villains. However, he is always careful to remain impartial. He believes that it is not his place to judge others, and that each individual must make their own choices. Metron's dedication to knowledge is unwavering. He is always seeking to learn more about the universe, and he is never satisfied with what he knows. He believes that there is always more to learn, and that the pursuit of knowledge is one of the most important things in life. Metron's knowledge and wisdom make him a valuable asset to the DC Universe. He is often consulted by other beings when they need advice or guidance. He is also a powerful ally to the forces of good, and he has used his knowledge and power to help defeat evil. The Guardians of the Universe, on the other hand, are more proactive in their use of power. They have created the Green Lantern Corps, a peacekeeping force that protects the universe from evil. The Guardians are also responsible for creating many of the powerful artifacts that are used by the Green Lanterns, such as the Power Rings and the Central Power Battery. The Guardians are a council of wise and powerful beings who have dedicated their lives to protecting the universe. They are often seen as the moral compass of the DC Universe, and their influence can be felt throughout the cosmos. The Guardians of the Universe are a diverse group of beings, each with their own unique abilities and perspectives. They are united by their commitment to justice and their desire to protect the universe from harm. The Guardians have used their power to create a vast network of Green Lanterns, who are spread throughout the universe and are responsible for maintaining order and peace. The Guardians are also responsible for creating the Book of Oa, which contains the history of the universe and the secrets of the Green Lantern Corps. The Guardians of the Universe are one of the most powerful and influential forces in the DC Universe. They have been responsible for shaping the course of history, and their influence can be felt throughout the cosmos. They are a symbol of hope and justice, and they will continue to protect the universe for generations to come. At a sprightly 225 million years young, John Johns, the Martian Manhunter, is a being of immense power and sorrow. Born into a utopian Martian society millions of years ago, he was known as Ma'alefa'ak, and his people, the Green Martians, possessed a natural empathy and telepathic connection that fostered harmony. However, this peaceful existence was shattered by the rise of the White Martians, a subspecies driven by aggression and fear. They engineered a curse of fire that exploited a deep-seated Martian vulnerability to flames, decimating their own kind and leaving John as the sole survivor of this ancient race. His escape from the Martian genocide was nothing short of miraculous. Through a tragic accident involving the human scientist Dr. Saul Erdel and his experimental teleportation technology, John was ripped from his dying world and flung across the vastness of space to Earth. Stranded and alone, he grappled with the loss of his family, his people, and his entire civilization. He adopted the human guise of John Jones, a detective in the fictional town of Middletown, USA, using this identity to integrate into human society and secretly protect his new home. John's powers are a reflection of his Martian physiology and his deep connection to the psychic energy that permeates the universe. He is a shapeshifter of extraordinary ability, capable of altering his form at will, from mimicking the appearance of any human to transforming into monstrous creatures or even becoming intangible. His telepathy is equally formidable, allowing him to read minds, control thoughts, and even communicate across vast distances. He possesses superhuman strength, flight, and Martian vision, which grants him heat vision and other optic abilities. However, this incredible power comes with a profound weakness. Fire, the primal fear instilled by the White Martian's curse of fire, remains, leaving him vulnerable to both physical flames and psychic attacks that exploit this deep-seated trauma. Despite his immense power, John is a deeply compassionate being. He is driven by a profound sense of justice and a desire to prevent others from suffering the same loss he endured. He has been a core member of the Justice League, often serving as its heart and conscience. His wisdom and empathy make him a valuable leader, and his unique perspective as an outsider allows him to offer insights that others might miss. Yuga Khan, the very name whispers terror throughout the cosmos. This ancient and monstrous being is not merely old, but immortal, his existence stretching back over 500,000 years, a testament to his terrifying power and insatiable hunger for domination. He is the father of both Highfather, the benevolent ruler of New Genesis, and Darkseid, the tyrannical god of Apocalypse, but dwarfs them both in sheer power and ambition. Yuga Khan was once the ruler of Apocalypse, a world he forged in fire and ruled with an iron fist. His reign was one of unparalleled brutality and oppression, his every whim enforced by legions of monstrous parademons and fearsome warriors. But Yuga Khan's ambitions extended far beyond the conquest of a single world. He craved ultimate power, the power of the source itself, the primal energy that fuels all of existence. Driven by this insatiable thirst, Yuga Khan launched a campaign of terror across the universe, consuming entire worlds to fuel his growing power. He sought to breach the Source Wall, the barrier that separates the known universe from the Source, believing that by claiming its power, he would become the Supreme Being. His quest led him to the very edge of reality, where he confronted the Source itself. But the Source is not to be trifled with. Yuga Khan's hubris and insatiable hunger for power proved his undoing. The Source, in its infinite wisdom, saw the danger he posed and imprisoned him within the Source Wall, transforming him into a Promethean giant, a being of immense size and power, but forever trapped within the cosmic barrier. Despite his imprisonment, Yuga Khan's legend lives on. He is a figure of dread, a reminder of the ultimate cost of unchecked ambition and the destructive potential of power without compassion. Even Darkseid, his own son and a being of immense power himself, fears the day his father might break free from his cosmic prison. Darkseid. The name itself evokes images of tyranny, oppression, and the relentless pursuit of domination. He is the embodiment of evil in the DC universe, a godlike being of immense power and cruelty who has plagued heroes for millennia. While his exact age remains shrouded in mystery, it is estimated that Darkseid is at least 250,000 years old, his existence stretching back to the earliest days of the Fourth World. And like his father, Yuga Khan, he is functionally immortal, his life force tied to the very fabric of Apocalypse itself. Born Uxas, he was the younger son of Yuga Khan and Hegra, and from his earliest days, he craved power. He murdered his brother Drax to claim the power of the Omega Force, a cosmic energy that grants him near omnipotence. This act transformed him into the being known as Darkseid, a hulking figure with granite gray skin and burning red eyes that radiate his malevolent power. Darkseid rules Apocalypse, a nightmarish world of fire and brimstone with an iron fist. His reign is one of absolute terror, his subjects living in constant fear of his wrath. He commands legions of parademons, monstrous flying creatures that serve as his soldiers and enforcers, and he is served by a cadre of powerful lieutenants, including the sadistic Granny Goodness, the cunning Desaad, and his own son, the brutal Calibac. But Darkseid's ambitions extend far beyond the conquest of Apocalypse. He seeks to conquer the entire universe, to impose his will upon all of creation. He believes that free will is an illusion, a weakness that prevents beings from achieving their true potential. His ultimate goal is to obtain the anti-life equation, a mathematical formula that would grant him complete control over the minds and wills of all living beings. Darkseid's power is nearly limitless. He possesses superhuman strength, speed, and durability, and he is virtually invulnerable to harm. His most fearsome weapon is the Omega Beams, fiery rays of energy that he can fire from his eyes. These beams can disintegrate, teleport, or even resurrect their targets, making them a truly devastating force. Darkseid is a constant threat to the heroes of the DC universe, particularly Superman, whom he sees as the ultimate symbol of hope and freedom. He has clashed with the Justice League countless times, his schemes often threatening to plunge the universe into darkness. His relentless pursuit of power and his unwavering belief in his own superiority make him a truly formidable opponent. Starting things off with the Endless. A group of 7 immortal beings are as vast and timeless as the universe itself. Their existence transcends both space and time, making them akin to the very fabric of reality. While some readers might perceive them as existing outside the DC multiverse, the acclaimed series Sandman and its associated titles firmly anchor them within the main DC continuity. In fact, even iconic characters like Superman were shown attending Dream's funeral near the end of the series, underscoring their integral role within the DC universe. Delving into the Age of the Endless is a fascinating endeavor. Destiny, the keeper of all destinies, has existed for as long as anything, as everything is etched in his book. However, the existence of multiple universes, as exemplified by the Fourth World, raises questions about whether Destiny and the Endless predate them. The concept of destiny emerged at the dawn of time, but it's highly likely that destiny existed in some form even before time itself began. Destiny and the Endless are undoubtedly among the oldest forces in the universe, having emerged alongside them. Their existence alongside these ancient powers grants them the top spot in the rankings as the oldest characters in the DC universe. The Endless are not merely ancient, they are eternal. They have witnessed the birth and death of countless universes, and their influence extends far beyond the mortal realm. They are the guardians of dreams, desires, death, destiny, and other fundamental aspects of existence. Their stories are intertwined with the history of the DC universe, and their impact on the multiverse is immeasurable. The One Above All stands as the supreme being in the Marvel universe, an entity so profoundly powerful and enigmatic that it eludes complete comprehension. He is often considered the ultimate creator, the architect of all realities, existing outside the boundaries of time and space as we understand them. His age is immeasurable, predating the very concept of existence itself. To illustrate the sheer scale of his power, consider the Living Tribunal. This cosmic entity, a being of immense power who judges the entirety of the multiverse, is but a servant to the One Above All. The Tribunal, a tripartite being composed of eternity, infinity, and death, maintains balance across countless dimensions. Yet even this godlike figure bows before the One Above All, acknowledging his ultimate authority. Mark Waid, during his influential run on the Fantastic Four, first introduced this omnipotent being to the Marvel Universe. In a moment of meta-textual brilliance, the One Above All appeared in the form of Jack Kirby, the legendary artist who co-created the Fantastic Four and shaped the visual landscape of Marvel Comics. This was not just a clever nod to a comics icon, it was a symbolic representation of the One Above All's role as the ultimate creator, mirroring the real-world creation of the Marvel Universe by Kirby and his collaborators. The One Above All, however, is not merely a distant creator. He has, on rare occasions, intervened in the affairs of the multiverse, often in subtle ways that reveal his compassion and understanding. He has offered guidance to lost souls, provided solace to the grieving, and even resurrected heroes when the fate of reality hung in the balance. These instances, though infrequent, highlight his benevolent nature and his profound connection to all living things. Etrigan the Demon, a character whose origins intertwine with the very fabric of the universe. In the celestial realm known as the Silver City, where angels under God's guidance devised the blueprint for the cosmos, Lucifer, the most radiant of them all, learned of the impending arrival of humanity and mortal life. A spark of dissent ignited within Lucifer's heart, leading him to question God's plans and incite a rebellion against his authority. Etrigan, a powerful demon, was among the angels who heeded Lucifer's call, aligning himself with the rebellious forces. The ensuing conflict between the angels and Lucifer's followers was a cataclysmic event, resulting in the expulsion of those who sided with the rebellious leader. Etrigan, along with his fellow rebels, was banished to the depths of hell, where he was transformed into a rhymer, a figure of immense power within the infernal hierarchy. In In the depths of hell, Etrigan's destiny intertwined with that of a human named Jason Blood, a knight who had been summoned to the underworld to confront a demonic threat. A bond formed between the two, granting Jason the ability to transform into Etrigan when he uttered a specific incantation. This symbiotic relationship transformed Etrigan from a mere demon to a hero, a champion of good who fought against evil on Earth. Etrigan's existence as a hero, however, was not without its complexities. While he battled against evil on Earth, he remained a creature of hell, tormented by the souls of the damned. This duality of his nature created an intriguing juxtaposition, where he was both a savior and a monster, a hero and a villain. The Living Tribunal stands as a monumental figure in the vast cosmic hierarchy of Marvel Comics, a being of immense power and authority who oversees the delicate balance of the entire multiverse. Conceived by the creative triumvirate of Stan Lee, Marie Severin, and Herb Trimpe, the Living Tribunal predates much of the Marvel Universe, his existence intertwined with the very fabric of reality. Functioning as a cosmic judge and arbiter, the Living Tribunal's role is akin to that of the Watchers, but on an infinitely grander scale. While the Watchers observe and record events within a single universe, the Living Tribunal's jurisdiction extends across all realities, ensuring that no single universe gains dominance over others and that the cosmic balance is maintained. His distinctive three-faced visage, each face representing a different aspect of his being, equity, vengeance, and necessity, reflects his multifaceted role in safeguarding the multiverse. The front face, representing equity, judges with impartiality, while the partially obscured face on the right, vengeance, ensures that transgressions against the cosmic order are met with appropriate consequences. The fully covered face on the left, necessity, embodies the inevitable course of events, even those that may seem harsh or unjust. The Living Tribunal's origins lie in the dawn of creation, his existence predating the formation of stars, galaxies, and even the very concept of time itself. He has witnessed the birth and death of countless universes, the rise and fall of civilizations beyond mortal comprehension. His age, measured in billions of years, is merely a pale reflection of his timeless nature. The Fourth World, a realm beyond the conventional boundaries of time and space within, is home to the New Gods, a pantheon of powerful beings who embody the eternal struggle between good and evil. Created by the legendary Jack Kirby, these characters, including the noble Orion and the escape artist Mr. Miracle, represent the pinnacle of his creative genius. The genesis of the New Gods lies in the destruction of the Third World, a realm inhabited by ancient deities. From the ashes of this cataclysm arose two distinct worlds: New Genesis, a verdant paradise brimming with life and harmony, and Apocalypse, a fiery hellscape ruled by the iron fist of Darkseid. The New Gods, born from these contrasting worlds, inherited the mantle of their predecessors, becoming the new guardians of the cosmos. However, the precise timeline of their emergence remains shrouded in mystery. Are they older than the Presence, the enigmatic entity often regarded as the DC Universe's equivalent of God? Did they precede the angels who dwell in the Silver City? The answers to these questions remain elusive, as the New Gods exist outside the conventional flow of time, making it difficult to pinpoint their exact age. And in the final spot we have the Spectre. A figure of awe-inspiring power and divine wrath, stands as the embodiment of God's vengeance in the DC universe. While most familiar as the spectral force that bonded with Detective Jim Corrigan in the 1930s, the Spectre's origins stretch back to the dawn of creation, his existence intertwined with the celestial drama that unfolded in the Silver City. Before he was the Spectre, he was Astar, an angel residing in the luminescent realm where angels crafted the cosmos under the guidance of the Presence. When Lucifer, the morning star, ignited a rebellion against the divine order, Astar was among those who succumbed to the allure of defiance. Cast out of heaven alongside the fallen angels, Astar's fate took a dramatic turn when the rogue angel Eclipso incurred the wrath of the Presence. It was then that Astar was transformed into the Spectre, the embodiment of divine vengeance. Tasked with delivering punishment upon the wicked, angels, as beings of divine creation, predate much of existence. While not the oldest beings in the cosmos, they stand among the most ancient, their origins lost in the mists of time. The Spectre, born from this ancient lineage, has been a recurring force in the universe, his presence felt across eons. The Spectre's modus operandi involves merging with a human soul, using their body as a vessel to carry out his divine mission. While Jim Corrigan is perhaps the most well-known of these hosts, he is but one in a long line of individuals who have been bonded with the spirit of vengeance. He is a figure of immense power, yet also one of profound tragedy, forever bound to carry out the will of the presence, even when it conflicts with his own sense of morality. And there you have it, an in-depth look at ancient superheroes more powerful than you think. So the next time you crack open a comic book, remember that the story goes deeper than you think. Look beyond the heroes and villains, and you might just glimpse the true ancients watching over it all.
Starting off with Gabriel Shepherd, the most powerful mutant, kind of. He is the most powerful of his genre of mutants, which is proto-mutants. This group of people had the gene that eventually evolved into the mutant gene found in the X-Men today. Only a few hundred proto-mutants existed, and big surprise, Gabriel is the last of them. He looked the most human. So, Gabriel allied with the X-Men, but then picked a fight because he discovered that the other proto-mutants had been getting revived to be used as weapons. Gabriel was so mad about this, he literally disappeared into pure energy. Goals, I guess? He returned later to help the X-Men take down Lady Deathstrike. Gabriel might as well be an Omega level mutant. He has lived a very long time and he will live forever. He is strong, he can generate electricity, fly, hear everything, including your thoughts. His telepathic abilities can reach over vast distances, but if you wanted to Uno reverse and use telepathy on him, no such luck. He can throw up some pretty solid mental shields. Goodness knows he's had the time to practice. If you annoy him enough, he might just turn you into a tree using his transmutation abilities, but he's a good guy, so you're probably safe. And finally, he can also stop time, but that's only been shown for a radius of about 500 meters as of right now. Nobody's perfect. Up next is Vision, but not the one you might be thinking of. I'm talking about the original Arcus Destroyer of Evil. This immortal hero debuted in Marvel Mystery Comics 13 and then disappeared for a long time. He was supposed to join the Avengers, but Stan Lee wanted the next member to be an android, so Avengers writer Roy Thomas created Vision. He named him the same thing and took inspiration from the OG's appearance and mysterious backstory, creating the more popular version of Vision that we now know today. The original is making a comeback though, and it's well deserved. This hero is underutilized considering how powerful he is, but that might have to do with an interesting weakness. He can teleport anywhere at all. The only catch is there must be smoke or gas or vapor present, literally like a magician puffing away in a cloud of smoke. He has powers over gases and things like that. He can use them for transport, but manipulate them and make them solid. But that isn't all he can do. Among the usual enhancements, like extreme speed and strength, he's almost impossible to hurt. Nothing can poison him, nothing can seriously pierce his body, he can breathe anywhere. He can also fly, project mental images, make himself appear human, freeze things by touch, and temporarily mind control people. No one knows when this hero was born, but the official Marvel handbook says that he is at least centuries old. Tumazuma, the Native American god of kinship and storytelling, has appeared a few times over the years, and not all of the appearances are considered equal. In some of them, he is the all-powerful, thousands of years old god that can easily lift 25 tons and strike fear into all those he faces, but then in some appearances, he's actually a robot. An oil company built a robot version of the ancient god in order to scare an indigenous group off their land so they could drill for oil. This version of the god shot fire from his hands, concussive beams from his eyes, and can lift up to 100 tons. No matter which version of the character we're looking at, he's pretty powerful. Lacey Lorraine has survived living hundreds of years in the vacuum of space, and she has since retired to a simple life of working in a remote gas station in Montana. I mean, if I were left in space for a couple hundred years, I too wouldn't mind spending the next few centuries with my feet on solid ground with a steady line of work. Lacey was born in ancient Greece and discovered on the day of a major surgery that her body was indestructible. She crossed the universe to try and get that surgery of a device that might be able to do the trick. The problem was it was guarded by a celestial, and it wasn't until she was blasted with all its force that Lacey and those she traveled with realized the device was already stolen. She spent the next 100 years floating through space until she was rescued, and now she lives the quiet life as a gas station attendant and mechanic within Need's story. Turine's birth was prophesized billions of years before she was born, and when she finally did arrive, she more than delivered. Turine was said to be the designate, the being that would help sentient beings evolve to the next level. She started her hero's journey after meeting Thor. She admired him and decided to become Thor Girl. She got her own hammer, and it is quite similar to Thor's. It helps her fly and fire concentrated energy blasts. As the designate, Turine was immortal and was capable of manipulating cosmic energy. That can manifest in various ways, like energy blasts or illusions or shapeshifting, even becoming all-knowing. But she has a pretty unique power. This is directly from Thor Volume 2, Issue 25. If her tears touch evil, unprotected by the Stone of Illumination, then it will literally burn it. In this case, the it was Thanos. She has been referred to as unstoppable, and Thor even once considered her powers to rival his father Odin's. For the rare few of you that are not familiar with the Silver Surfer's game, please consider this a quick introductory. This hero is considered one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe, and there are a lot of powerful things out there. Also, dermatologists hate him. He's literally centuries old, but he doesn't look a day over 30. As a herald of Galactus, Silver Surfer was imbued with the power cosmic, aka the source of unlimited cosmic energy. That comes with all the expected bells and whistles in regards to making sure he can physically do the job of being a herald to Galactus, but it helps him with the mental work too. Concepts and rules of the universe that would normally make the average human brain collapse in on itself are light work to Surfer. He can handle being aware of the entire universe. Silver Surfer does surf on his board, it would be weird if he didn't, but he doesn't require the board to fly, as he can propel himself, or if he really wants to, he could just teleport. He's accessed the astral plane and destroyed souls, messed with the foundations of nature, gravity, weather, water, light, and there is literally so much more. There is a reason the Silver Surfer is a fan favorite character. But time for some Canadian representation. Snowbird, my queen, is an Inuit demigod whose main power is shapeshifting into any animals native to northern Canada, but she can perform many other impressive feats as well. Her other powers include flight, super strength, and the ability to see the past, up to 6 hours. She is skilled in hand-to-hand combat, having been trained by none other than Alberta-born hero Wolverine. This is already so Canadian, but we're about to add even more maple syrup to the mix. Snowbird is the daughter of the goddess of the Northern Lights, an immortal man. She was bound to Canadian land so she could take on a human form to be the voice of gods on Earth. But this means that if she leaves Canada, she gets weaker. Snowbird's day-to-day identity is Anne Mackenzie, an RCMP officer. Snowbird at this point has been released from her earthly tether and is offered a place among the gods, but refuses to go unless her child and husband can come with her. It took some persuasion, but the gods eventually agreed, and we get a rare happily ever after. I mean, it doesn't last forever, but she had it for a little while. Early in the Marvel Earth history, a bunch of gods had turned evil and were being terrible, and eventually, somebody had to put a stop to it all. Enter Atum, the God Eater, son of Gaia, Mother Earth, and the Demiurge, the planet's life force. Atum was brought in to put an end to the gods consuming each other and turning demonic, and he did this by consuming all the evil gods and then turning partially demonic. So like, he kind of did the job, but at what cost? Good thing, the good side of him still had morals and didn't want to let the evil consume him. He flew up into the atmosphere to fix himself up before heading back home to the sun. He got all the evil elder gods except 2, Set and Chthon, but they were banished to other realms, so he did still finish the job. Set and Atum did go head to head again a bit later over the dinosaurs. Gaia had plans to stop sustaining dinosaurs and instead get to work on mammals. Set, who had bonded with the dinos, didn't like that idea and picked a fight. Gaia called in her son to finish it. This massive battle is what, in the Marvel Universe anyways, caused the dinosaurs to go extinct. I love Marvel history, it is so entertaining. Set returns to his dimension and Atum to the sun. The next time he returns to Earth, he takes on a new name, that being Ra, and then eventually Ra the sun god from Egyptian mythology. Our most unique and technically incomplete path to godhood today belongs to Alexander Aaron, son of Ares. His mother was a mortal woman, which would typically make someone a demigod. However, Alexander was born mortal. Ares turned his back on the gods to raise his son normally, much to Zeus's annoyance, as the Olympians needed the war god to help with the impending fight with the Japanese god of evil. To get Ares back, Zeus kidnapped Alexander as leverage, but before Ares could get him back, Alex was kidnapped a second time by none other than the Japanese god of evil. Ares was a major player in the fight after this. Alexander's godly side was awakened when the Japanese god gave him some of his life force to drink. He brainwashed Alexander and pit him against his father. Zeus was able to clear Alexander's brainwashed state, but by that point, Alex had already seriously harmed his dad in battle and woke up to Ares at his feet. It was tragic, but luckily Ares is a god, so he was reborn in no time. At this point, with his godhood awakened, Alex is sought out by Nick Fury, and this is when he finds out that he will become the next god of fear. This comes with a pretty cool set of powers. He can tell what everyone's greatest fear is and use his eyes to place that fear in your head. And he can also see the future now, just as like a fun little extra. And finally, the best for last because I'm a cat person. The Egyptian lion goddess has two modes, Hathor, the peaceful, playful goddess of love, and Sekhmet, the violent war goddess. So she might seem all cute and cuddly, but she can and will demolish you. She acted as a warrior to the sun god Ra whenever the people of Egypt would try to rebel against him. Her war goddess side, once unleashed, is pretty hard to control. Once she was unleashed on Egypt and slayed half the population before Ra had to step in, the only way to get her to stop was to trick her into drinking large quantities of inebriating drinks that Ra dyed red. The hope and successful outcome was that the war goddess would see the red and, thinking it was humans red, drink herself unconscious, giving her brain time to settle back into the love goddess. Sekhmet is capable of a male form, but it requires a human host.
The Phantom. It's the mid-1930s, radios are playing soft jazz music throughout the streets, movies are still in black and white, and superheroes, well, they're not even a thing yet. Yeah, imagine that. Then in 1936, a guy named Lee Falk decided to change everything. He created the Phantom, the first costumed superhero ever in a daily comic strip. Now this guy came before Superman, Batman, and pretty much everyone else. The Phantom made his debut on February 17th, 1936, and he appeared in newspaper strips before eventually transitioning to comic books. So who is the Phantom? Well, he's known as the Ghost Who Walks, which is pretty badass. He's not your typical superhero with superpowers or gadgets. No, the Phantom is actually the 21st in a long line of crime fighters who passed the mantle down from father to son. Must be nice. He operates out of the fictional African jungle of Bengala, protecting it from pirates, poachers, and other bad guys. Now what makes him so cool is his mystique, right? People think he's immortal because for 400 years there's always been a phantom. His costume is also iconic. A purple suit, black mask, and striped trunks. Looks like somebody I would never want to mess with. Oh, and let's not forget Skull Cave. Of course, the famous Skull Cave, his secret hideout where he keeps treasures and records of past adventures. The Phantom's legacy is massive. Without him, who knows if superheroes would have ever worn their iconic costumes. He set the template for so much of what we love in the genre today. And hey, you ever wonder why Batman lives in a bat cave? Well, you could thank the Phantom for that inspiration. He's such a nepo baby, isn't that true? Yeah, he's born, that's it, now he has a job. That's it, no applying, no reference letters, must be nice, dude. Mandrake the Magician. Before Harry Potter, Doctor Strange, or any other magic-wielding heroes, there was Mandrake the Magician. And yes, he would have been a Gryffindor for sure. Another creation by Lee Falk, the same guy who gave us the Phantom. Mandrake made his first appearance June 11th, 1934 in newspaper comic strips, but at the time, Mandrake was groundbreaking. While most comics focused on slapstick or crime, here was a character who dealt in illusions, hypnotism, and the supernatural. Mandrake is this cool magician with a tuxedo, a top hat, and a cape. He looks amazing, the classic magician look. But this guy wasn't just pulling rabbits out of his hat, no, he was doing much more. Mandrake used his skills to fight crime, battling everything from mobsters to intergalactic villains, you name it. His signature move is hypnosis. He could convince enemies that their weapons were snakes or that they were surrounded by fire. Whatever works to save the day. Talk about a creative way to disarm bad guys, okay. Abracadabra. Mandrake also had an incredible supporting cast, including his best friend Lothar, one of the first African-American comic characters portrayed in a heroic and dignified light. Together they traveled the world taking down evil masterminds, other magicians, anyone that's in their way. Mandrake's mix of action and magic was ahead of its time, and he's often considered the blueprint for later mystical heroes. Next time you're watching Doctor Strange, think about this man. Mandrake. Dr. Occult. Alright, this one's a deep cut for hardcore comic fans. Dr. Occult was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, you know, the guys who would go on to invent Superman, no big deal. Dr. Occult made his first appearance in New Fun Comics issue 6 in 1935, published by National Allied Publications, which later became DC Comics, the same DC Comics we know and love. That makes him one of the oldest DC characters ever. End of story. Dr. Occult is a supernatural detective, sort of like a 1930s version of John Constantine. He investigates cases involving ghosts, demons, and magical phenomena, anything mystifying and crazy and scary. His tools of the trade include the symbol of the Seven, a mystical talisman that protects him from dark forces. And while he doesn't wear a flashy costume per se, his trench coat and fedora give him quite a classic noir vibe. Also a fedora and you're a superhero? You're my favorite, let's do it. The Shadow. Let's travel back to the golden age of pulp fiction. In 1930, a mysterious figure named the Shadow came from the darkness. Not in comics, but on the radio. Yeah, tune in. Created by Walter B. Gibson for the Detective Story Hour, The Shadow was a vigilante who quickly captured listeners' imaginations, which is hard. That's like the OG podcasting right there. By 1931, he transitioned to pulp novels, and in 1940, he made his way eventually into comics. The Shadow is all about mystery. By day, he's Lamont Cranston, a wealthy socialite, but by night, he becomes the Shadow, a master of disguise and stealth who uses his twin blasters to take down criminals. His iconic catchphrase, "Who knows what evil lurks in the heart of men?" I mean, what? Dude, that is so iconic. Who just says that? What are you, Gandhi? It's no surprise he became a pop culture staple. The Shadow's influence is huge. He's considered a direct inspiration for Batman, from his use of fear and shadows to his dual identity as a wealthy playboy and masked hero. Without the Shadow, Gotham City might look very different today. It might look like Toronto. Captain Marvel, Shazam. Now here's a superhero who once gave Superman a run for his money. Literally. Captain Marvel, now known as Shazam, made his first appearance in Whiz Comics issue 2 in 1939, created by writer Bill Parker and artist C.C. Beck for Fawcett Comics. Now at one point, Captain Marvel was the most popular superhero in the world, even outselling Superman during the 1940s. That wasn't an easy task. Beating Superman, that's actually quite hard. The story is simple yet magical. Billy Batson, a young boy, is granted the ability to transform into this adult superhero simply by shouting the word Shazam. Each letter of the word represents a mythical figure's power. Solomon's wisdom, Hercules' strength, Atlas's stamina, Zeus's power, Achilles' courage, and Mercury's speed. Yeah, kind of OP if you ask me, but whatever. Shazam's bright red costume and the lightning bolt emblem and gold trim cape became instantly iconic. I liked the first Shazam movie quite a bit, not sure why, but I wasn't very attached to the second one. Wasn't nearly as fun as the first. Also, Zachary Levi's kinda, yeah, he's going downhill. Namor the Submariner. Namor the Submariner, Marvel's first ever superhero, is way older than you think. This aquatic anti-hero debuted in Marvel Comics 1 in October 1939, created by writer-artist Bill Everett for Timely Comics, the company that would later become Marvel. That means that Namor predates Captain America, Spider-Man, and even the Fantastic Four. Talk about being an old head. Namor is the half-human, half-Atlantean ruler of the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. Again, Nepo baby for sure. He's got all the powers you'd expect: super strength, the ability to breathe underwater, and telepathic control over sea creatures. Imagine controlling a fish, that would be amazing. But he's also got something you don't see every day. He's got little ankle wings that let him fly. I would love some ankle wings. That wouldn't be late a day in my life. Namor is fiercely protective of his underwater kingdom, which often puts him at odds with surface dwellers. He's one of the first comic book anti-heroes, meaning he doesn't always play nice. Even when he's fighting for a good cause, he's still got some dirty tricks. Some tricks in his little winged shoes. Namor's complex personality, proud, arrogant, but also deeply loyal to his people, this makes him stand out even today. I loved him in Wakanda Forever. I thought he was the best part of the movie, but I don't think we'll see him again anytime soon. Let's hope, but I don't think so. The Green Llama. If you've never heard of the Green Llama, well, don't worry. He's one of those forgotten Golden Age superheroes, but he has a fascinating history. I mean, his name's the Green Llama. I mean, come on. Created by writer Ken Crossan, the Green Llama first appeared in Double Detective magazines back in 1940 and later made the leap to comic books. The Green Llama, whose real name is Jethro Dumont, is a millionaire playboy who becomes a Buddhist monk after spending time in Tibet. He gains mystical powers like super strength, flight, and the ability to emit green energy beams, hence his name. Using his newfound abilities, he returns to America to fight crime and battle evil forces. What makes the Green Llama unique is his spiritual background. He's one of the first superheroes to be explicitly tied to Eastern philosophies, which was rare for the time. Though he's not as well known as Batman or Superman, he's quite an interesting relic from a time when superheroes were experimenting with all kinds of influences. Plastic Man. If you think stretchy superheroes began with the Fantastic Four's Mr. Fantastic, well, think again, bucko. Plastic Man was created by writer/artist Jack Cole and made his first appearance in Police Comics 1 in 1941. It was published originally by Quality Comics. Plastic Man's kind of wacky, slapstick adventures made him one of the first superheroes to really embrace humor as a core part of his character. I mean, after all, his name is Plastic Man. You can't really take that too seriously. Plastic Man started out as Eel O'Brien, a small-time crook who fell into a vat of chemicals during a heist. The classic, whoops, fell into a vat of superpowers Trick, love that. Now instead of perishing, he gained the ability to stretch, contort, and reshape his body into any form imaginable. As a tall man, I would love that. I could itch my back finally, be at peace, that'd be lovely. Realizing he has a second chance at life, Eel reformed and became the crime-fighting, joke-cracking Plastic Man. Even after 80 years, Plastic Man remains a fan favorite for his unique mix of comedy and action. The Blue Beetle is another Golden Age hero with a long, fascinating history. Created by Charles Nicholas Wachowski, he first appeared in Mystery Men Comics 1 in 1939, published by Fox Feature Syndicate. Over the decades, the mantle of the Blue Beetle has been passed down to these different characters, but it all started with Dan Garrett. The original Blue Beetle was a police officer who used a mystical scarab to fight crime, giving him super strength and invulnerability. Again, I would love to have a mystical scarab, but instead I just got like jeans, I don't know. In later iterations, like Ted Kord's version, the scarab was replaced by high-tech gadgets and a flying beetle-shaped vehicle. I personally am a fan of the scarab, but we love change. Now the Blue Beetle may not have the name recognition of Superman or Spider-Man, not nearly as much, but he's been a staple of the comic book world for over 80 years. The movie was actually pretty good too. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It looks like a kid's movie, but it packs a punch. And lastly, the Human Torch. Wait a second, if you're thinking of Fantastic Four's Human Torch, think again. The original Human Torch made its first appearance in Marvel Comics issue 1 in 1939, created by Carl Burgos for Timely Comics. Now this Human Torch wasn't even a human. He was an android, so kind of a confusing name, I get it. The original Human Torch, named Jim Hammond, was a synthetic man created by Professor Phineas Horton. Now when exposed to oxygen, his body would ignite, turning him into this blazing superhero. Though he struggled to control his powers at first, he eventually became a hero, fighting in World War II. Jim Hammond was one of Marvel's first big stars and even teamed up with Namor, the Submariner, in early stories. Though he's not as well known today, his legacy of course still lives on in the Fantastic Four's Johnny Storm and in Marvel's rich history. And also they're gonna hit the big screen really soon with Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can't wait for Fantastic Four.
At number 10 is Tigra, first appearing in her own Marvel comic book called The Cat in 1972. This superhero just doesn't get the spotlight very often. Considering she has been a member of the Avengers in the past, it would only make sense that she might appear more prominently in more recent issues, or even MCU movies. But sadly, her most recent appearance was in a supporting role in Avengers Academy between issues 1 and 39. Tigra's powers began as an experiment by Dr. Joanne Tumalo, who gave her powers attached to her costume, and in this form she was simply known as the Cat. But down the line is when she eventually mutated into Tigra, a human-tiger hybrid, through a mystical ritual. She was then bound to a race of humanoid cat people from the Middle Ages, which she could then transform into on command from her human form, using the cat's head amulet. She's a pretty cool hero, so I wonder why they haven't really brought her back in any big way. Maybe they found her too similar to DC's Catwoman, who knows. Next up at number 9 is Stingray, an oceanographer turned superhero who builds his suit in order to explore the depths of the ocean. He helps construct an underwater city covered by a glass dome, which he uses to try and grow food for mankind. He first appears in Tales to Astonish number 95 in June of 1967, so he's just on the cusp of the Golden Age. Just about. This guy is no doubt an older Marvel creation, and if you haven't heard of him, you may not be alone. Although he has appeared as recently as the Iron Man 2020 event, he still only appears briefly as a side character facing off against Captain Barracuda. But at least the writers of that issue probably had the same thought as me, that he deserves to come around again. Once again, my hunch is that he's just a little too similar to DC's Aquaman, which might keep Marvel from giving him any more spotlight than they already have in more modern issues. Although his buddy Namor the Submariner, looks like a carbon copy of Aquaman. But Namor appeared for the first time in Marvel's first ever comic book, Marvel Comics number 1 in 1939, whereas Aquaman didn't appear until 1941. But I digress. It just seems that DC found a way to occupy the underwater superhero market, which keeps us from seeing more characters like Stingray and even Namor more often. At number 8, we have DC's The Question, or just Question. Like Stingray, this superhero first appeared in 1967, but isn't showcased very much anymore. Usually teaming up with the Blue Beetle, this superhero got his last solo series in 1987, lasting 36 issues. issues. He originally had the secret identity of Vic Sage, but was later reimagined in the 2006-2007 miniseries 52, and his protege, Renee Montoya, takes over the mantle. This character is just a good old-fashioned fighter, only really having abilities in martial arts and I guess sleuthing since he's a journalist by trade, but he's just got such a simple and cool film noir kind of look, and it would be cool to see him in a lead role again. Again though, his abilities and look are strikingly similar to Marvel's Chameleon, so maybe by holding back on popularizing this character too much, they're just avoiding butting heads with their competitors. Once again, it's hard to tell. Okay, at number 7 we've got Marvel's Dominic Fortune, or Dominic Fortunov. This character is not only old in terms of his first appearance in the comics, but the character himself is aged to the point where it's known to be one of his biggest weaknesses. First appearing in Marvel Preview number 2 in 1975, this superhero needs a comeback for the sole reason that he's just a guy. He doesn't have any powers, but fought in World War II and always seems to be getting caught up in assassination attempts and weird odd jobs. Like one time when he had to babysit 3 drunken actors in Hollywood for a weekend and had to call the cops on them after things got out of hand. And after that, Fortune actually gets recruited to the Avengers by Nick Fury in 1959. He's just a good old-fashioned human superhero who runs into human troubles and stays in his lane, but ends up getting the opportunity still to support the superpowered Avengers with bazooka blasts and covert ops. At number 6, we have DC's Dr. Fate. This guy is old. He first appeared in More Fun Comics number 55 in 1940 and basically hasn't been mentioned again since his death in the Book of Fate number 1 in 1997. So yes, that's a long run, but still I'd like to see more of him. Dr. Fate is a superhero that's got so much going on and looks so cool that I don't know why he isn't used more often these days. His powers come from an incident when he, Kent Nelson, and his father were uncovering the tomb of ancient immortal Nabu, and Kent is basically trained by the ancient being and awarded with the amulet of Nabu, a cloak, and a helmet. With the training and these items in his control, he has abilities ranging from magic manipulation and flight to invisibility, super strength, and resurrection, among others. It's just a really cool character based on real ancient myth, and I don't see any reason why Dr. Fate shouldn't have another comeback soon. Okay, number 5, Marvel's Gargoyle. This superhero first appeared in Defenders issue number 94 in 1981, but since then he's actually retired and settled down in Greenwich Village. He even opened a restaurant called Isaac's Oysters, but he did go for one more rip for old time's sake, aiding Iron Man on a mission to take down the android Korvac, but that's sort of been it for him. And what's cool about this superhero is that he was sort of meant to be evil, but just chose good. He was formed when Isaac Christians agreed to place his soul inside a cursed gargoyle and do the bidding of the six-fingered hand. This was all in exchange for his issues to be resolved. But then when he was tasked with capturing Hellcat, a member of the Defenders, he couldn't get himself to do it and defied the six-finger hand and just sort of kept living on as this possessed gargoyle who chose good. He kind of reminds me of Beast. He just has this super wholesome energy to him, and I just feel like he could do for more of that sweet, sweet limelight. At number 4, we have Zeta from Batman Beyond, and eventually the Zeta Project cartoon spinoff. The show ran from 2001 to 2002 as part of a spinoff to the Batman Beyond episode Zeta. This character is so wholesome and doesn't get enough attention, having been last seen 20 years ago in what would have been the final episode of the short-running series. This synthoid was built for the NSA to keep an eye on terrorist organizations, so his abilities are pretty extensive, being able to shapeshift into just about anyone to infiltrate and carry out covert ops with ease. He's a naive and friendly character who decides to go rogue after realizing that any one of his assassination targets could be innocent. Zeta had such a moment and clearly a huge approval rating since his one episode got him a whole series, but at a certain point the world forgot about such a good and powerful synthoid superhero that definitely deserves a comeback. At number 3, there's Warlord, a character the world hasn't seen since his death in Warlord Volume 4, Issue 12. But there should be some kind of revival of Travis Morgan, who is another character on the list who doesn't actually have any powers, but is just a very well-respected and decorated war veteran. He also looks a lot like Oliver Queen or Green Arrow, which could have had something to do with it. They sort of acknowledge this when they finally meet in the same comic, and all of the Seattle underworld mistake Warlord for Green Arrow and attack him on sight. But whatever the reason is, Warlord's legacy deserves to be acknowledged with another appearance of some kind. I mean, the lore behind the character character is that in past lives he's been Sir Lancelot, D'Artagnan of the Three Musketeers, and Crazy Horse among other legendary warriors and soldiers. He's just a great human character with, might I add, a really cool costume and some badass accolades to boot. Bring him back. Okay, at number 2 on the list we've got Komodo. This superhero really was a flash in the pan, only appearing on and off for a few years and having her legacy end with her powers being stripped for a time until they're restored again by Cloud9 and Hardball, but that's sort of it. And I think the last time she's been seen is in the Fear Itself storyline, which wrapped up in 2011, which is 11 years ago now, believe it or not. But this character needs to reappear in some way. The superhero was first created because Melody Kusama lost her leg in a serious car accident, and none other than Dr. Connors from, yes, the Spider-Man series, decides to endow her with the regenerative powers of a lizard. Well, not only that, of course, she actually turns into a lizard fully and at will and gains super strength, speed, agility, stamina, all that good stuff. I think this story is a good one to retell because who doesn't love a good story where someone confined to a wheelchair is able to not only walk again but fight crime and be pretty damn good at it. Okay, last on the list is just my personal favorite, arguably obscure superhero 3D Man. An athlete turned superhero, 3D Man mysteriously gained superpowers after being stripped of his 3 Olympic gold medals. I mean, he was taking steroids, but there's always room for redemption, right? This character first appeared in 1998 and no one ever really talks about it. And to be honest, I didn't even know he existed until I started writing this list. And I want this hero to get more spotlight primarily because I'm a sucker for early 2000s culture, and this character is just such a great time capsule for that period, where everybody was obsessed with 3D for some reason, with DVDs coming with 3D glasses in the case, remember that? And 3D Man has the same nostalgic look to him, with many of his appearances being colored in green and red. If you want to look him up yourself, you'll notice that he originally went by the name of Triathlon and later changed to 3D Man during the Secret Invasion storyline. This guy just looks so cool and hits home with some good nostalgia for me, as well as probably anyone from the Gen Z or millennial generations. And there's also just a silly factor there too. 3D Man needs to come back. Please, can we? Just for 1 second.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Xena Warrior Princess. I bet you didn't expect to see this one. Sure, Xena Warrior Princess started out as a TV show, but the character was popular enough to get a few comic book series all of her own. From bigger publishers too, like Dark Horse and Dynamite Comics. Way back in the day, in her early 20s, Xena proved to be a courageous leader when she led her village against a local warlord. But they were defeated, and Xena, being one of the only survivors, was banished. Eventually, she formed a relationship with another warlord known as Boreas, and she even joined him, becoming a warlord herself. Xena the Warlord became known and feared across ancient China, Siberia, Japan, Norway, Britannia, and Greece as a very capable warlord, earning her the name Warrior Princess, but also the name Destroyer of Nations. Luckily, this destroyer changed her ways and instead became a protector of the innocent, traveling with her companions all across the ancient world. Number 9. Hippolyta. This queen's history begins thousands of years ago. Around 1300 BC, the Greek pantheon held a meeting convened by the goddesses. They were discussing the creation of a race of humans that would champion their ideals. Now, the male gods, including Zeus and Ares, did not seem too interested, and Hera did not wish to go against her husband, so it was left to the other 5 primary Greek goddesses. They decided to travel into the underworld, where they came upon the Well of Souls, where the souls of all the women who were taken out by man's hatred were gathered. The goddesses took these souls and went and dropped them into a lake in Greece. The souls mixed with the clay and the stone of the lake bed to form the Amazons, and the first one to emerge from the waters was Hippolyta. The goddesses appointed Hippolyta to be queen, and they decreed that the Amazons were to spread the message of peace, tolerance, and equality by being super dope warriors. Yes, Wonder Woman is also pretty ancient too, but Mama came first, so here we are. Number 8. Black Adam. Okay, so there are 2 different main origin stories for Black Adam. In the pre-New 52 era of DC, circa 1200 BC, the wizard Shazam became a high priest to the pharaoh Ramses II of Egypt. This is where he met the young prince Teth Adam of Kahndaq. Teth Adam was Ramses' son. Teth Adam impressed the wizard with his fairness and decency, and boom, he was granted the power. But in the more recent continuity, Teth Adam was born in Egypt in the 26th century BCE along the banks of the Nile as part of the Kahndaqi tribe, and it didn't take too long for him to be forced into a life of unwilling servitude. His entire family lost their lives except for his nephew Ammon. Amon. Amon would save Teth Adam's life, which got him the recognition of the wizard Shazam, who turned Amon into his champion. Amon shared this power with his uncle Teth Adam, but not seeing eye to eye on how to use the power, Black Adam took his own nephew off the board and stole his power. This was way before he was either banished, stuck in a scarab, or locked away in a tomb, depending on which era you want to talk about. Also, for the trolls out there, I know Adam is primarily a villain, but he has also been a hero, even joining the Justice Society and the Justice League, so get off my back. Number 7. XO Manowar. In the world of Valiant Comics' XO Manowar, a long time ago, aka 402 AD, a barbarian tribe known as the Visigoths were battling the Romans for territory in Italy. One of these barbarians was Eric of Dacia, a warrior of the Visigoths and the nephew of the king. After the Romans sneakily captured the barbarians' women and children, Eric gathered together a group of warriors and went off to attack the Romans at night. On their way to the Roman stronghold though, the Visigoths came across strangely dressed warriors who turned out to be an alien species known as the Vine. Using their advanced weapons, the Vine easily defeated the barbarians, and the remaining Visigoths were taken aboard the alien mothership. Now, whilst being herded on board the ship, Eric and his friends managed to overpower their jailer and escape to find shelter within another area of the ship, where they witnessed a Vine ritual in which a priest presented a chosen warrior with a semi-sentient armor called Shanhara. After a number of years, Eric and the others finally managed to gather enough tools and escape their cages. They made their way to the armory, where they found themselves trapped by Commander Trill and his soldiers. But in what could have been their final moments, Shanhara had deemed Eric worthy, granting him superhuman abilities and the means to escape his captors, eventually becoming a hero in the modern era. Number 6. Valkyrie. There have been a few people to take up the role of Valkyrie, but the first was Brunhilde. Back in the day, Odin realized that he needed to give man a paradise to live in after passing on. Thank you. Odin chose a princess named Brunhilde to be his Valkyrie, making her responsible for taking the souls of the warriors who perished in battle with honor and bringing them to Valhalla. Brunhilde led the rest of the Valkyrie as a group of warrior goddesses who would appear over the battlefields of mortal worshippers of the Asgardian gods and choose which of them were worthy to be taken to Valhalla. Brunhilde led this group for centuries. Like the other Asgardians, Brunhilde had godly powers, but she also possessed some Valkyrie-specific traits, like the ability to perceive and sense the coming of death on a person, the power to teleport to Asgard through willpower, and she was one of the most capable fighters the Asgardians had to offer outside of Thor and maybe a few others. Number 5. Gaia. Speaking of Thor though, last time we talked about Thor's papa, Odin, and for this list, I think we should talk about Thor's mama, Gaia. Gaia was one of the elder gods who materialized on Earth way before any life ever appeared here. Unfortunately, the rest of the gods, following the example of the serpent elder god Set, started consuming each other, which turned all but Gaia into demons. In order to better protect life on Earth, Gaia summoned the Demiurge and mated with it to give birth to her first son ever, Demogorge the God Eater. This Demogorge devoured all the demons except those that escaped, like Set and Chthon. Gaia then merged with the Earth itself and dedicated herself to guiding evolution, and that sounds pretty heroic to me. She is one of the oldest and most powerful deities in Marvel Comics, which makes her and Odin's eventual son, Thor, even more of a force to be reckoned with. Number 4. Hawkman. Hawkman is a bit of a doozy to talk about. Essentially, he has two main origins. He was either a space cop or a reincarnated prince. Since we are talking old and ancient today, we will focus on the reincarnated prince story. Basically, Hawkman's secret identity is Carter Hall, an archaeologist and museum curator who is actually a reincarnation of the ancient Egyptian prince Khufu. Khufu, who would become known as Hawkman, discovered an alien spacecraft from the planet Thanagar, powered by an anti-gravity metal element called the Nth metal, which transformed his soul and doomed him and his love to be reincarnated over and over and over again throughout time. Some of his incarnations include Brian Kent, the Silent Knight from 5th century Britain, Conrad von Grimm, the son of a blacksmith in 14th century Germany, Captain John Smith of the 16th century, Hannibal Hawks, the Nighthawk in the American Old West, Detective Detective James Wright, a Pinkerton detective in the 20th century, and finally, Carter Hall himself. Number 3, Venom. Since we all know Venom as being an enemy of Spider-Man, it's easy to forget that he has been around for a much longer amount of time than the web slinger himself, at least in the fictional world. The symbiote that later became known as Venom was spawned at some point during the reign of the Dark Elder God Null, which is a long one, and there is no specific Earth year when this happened, so it's hard to say just how ancient this symbiote actually is, but we know he had a life long before encountering Spider-Man. Unfortunately, the symbiote's memories have all been altered or erased a whole whack of times. It has been said that Venom was the 998th of its lineage, hatching from a clutch of eggs in a cavern on Clintar. That's the symbiote homeworld. Though it does have memories of being present on Gore's homeworld as well, so it's a little confusing. Basically, in the ancient past, the symbiote was once the loyal thrall of Null, but at some point the symbiote refused to obey his wishes anymore, and Venom was cast out of the hive, doomed to wander aimlessly across the cosmos. The symbiote eventually discovered the Kree explorers, who decided to harvest it for further study. It was then bonded to a soldier named Telkar and underwent months of training alongside him before they were dispatched to fight in the Kree-Skrull War. Before eventually leaving Telkar, and after a whack more adventures, the symbiote ended up becoming bonded to Spider-Man during Secret Wars. Number 2, Etrigan. Etrigan the demon was the firstborn of Belial, who was such a handful that Belial exiled Etrigan's mother to Masak Mavdil and told his son that his antics drove her away. That's a bad dad. I don't think this is the son's fault. His antics, that we just talked about, ended up even driving Belial out of hell for several decades, returning with another son born of a mortal witch named Merlin. Etrigan was originally summoned to Earth to serve Merlin in a desperate final attempt to protect Camelot from the evil witch Morgane Le Fay. Merlin bound the demon to a mortal man named Jason, and while Merlin went into hiding to rest, these two lived a very long and brutal life through history. Basically, how it would go is that Etrigan incited war and strife, and in return, Jason gained wealth and status. Not a horrible idea, but despite sharing the same body, the demon and his host are usually at odds with each other, and Jason retains a lot of guilt based on Etrigan's actions, which I think played a part in him being a bit more heroic, or as heroic as a demon can be. But finally, in at number 1, it's Thor. Being the son of Odin the Allfather, who appeared in part 1, and Gaia, an elder god who appeared on this list, Thor is incredibly old, approximately 4,000 years, although at other times it has been said to be even longer. Thor has all the incredible powers of the Asgardians, but boosted to a whole other level thanks to his mother's elder god status. As the god of strength as well as thunder, he is one of the strongest Marvel characters, being able to either defeat or stalemate astronomically stronger beings like the Midgard Serpent, the Hulk, the Silver Surfer, Gladiator, and Hercules. His stamina lets him basically fight forever, and he's next to completely invulnerable, not to mention his weather and energy manipulation and the use of his hammer, which make this guy almost impossible to bring down. Even when he isn't in possession of his hammer and is just Thor Odinson, he is still a force to be reckoned with, and especially recently, he keeps getting more and more boost to his power. This character has been around for an incredibly long time, and he just gets more and more powerful as time goes on.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Want to see even more awesome videos from us? Check out this video next. It's about the most powerful members of the Creature Commandos. Yep, we're ranking the members of the new DCU show by James Gunn. Come check out this fascinating video right now. What are you waiting for? Click the video now.